The coaster tells me that when it gets.
On the slide.
All right, so today is September 28th, 2023, and we are here for a special meeting with the Honorable Commissioner Fix. Do a roll call. Mark Moore.
Here.
Dave Price.
Here.
Heather Parks. Here. And Dwayne Van Oy.
Present.
We do have the majority here, so we can go forward with this meeting. I appreciate your time, Commissioner.
Thank you for inviting me.
For sure.
If it's all right, I'd like to ask Tony if he could join us at the
Yeah,
table.
come on up.
So Tony Vogel's our Director of Utilities, and found out in a meeting with him the other day, not only does he know an awful lot about utilities, he knows an awful lot about development and which farmer's doing what and where the pipes are and all that stuff. I was really impressed with him earlier in the week. So I asked him to come along because the last time we talked, we talked about your desire to grow, right? But you're concerned about the capacity you have with your water and sewer. So I'm going to do just a minute on growth is coming. I think you guys heard me last time, but it's getting even more intense, right? Intel is now building, and we're getting calls pretty regularly on folks who want to do some kind of commercial development inside Fairfield County, most of it around Lancaster, to support Intel. Honda is now, going to open ahead of Intel, down to our southwest, and we're growing already. Right, there's already more demand for housing than we can keep up with. There's already more jobs, and we have people to fill them. And so we need housing. We need workforce housing. All the way through, right? We need affordable housing, we need workforce housing, all the way up to the high-end housing. And so we're putting this land use plan together, and it's really big and really cumbersome, and it's on our website if you want to read it. And there's some really good information in there. But we're doing this land use plan really at the request of the townships in some villages who, when we introduced the concept a year ago, May, at the housing summit and said, look, all this is happening. We need to prepare for it. The response was, well, okay, you've told us we need a plan, but we don't have the money to do it. So we're doing it, right? The county's paying these people a good bit of money to create a comprehensive plan. And then we'll take each township from that plan, right? And work with the townships to then create their township or village land use plan. We're updating all of our codes. Tony's updated his, Jeremiah and the engineering department's updating his, regional planning is updating theirs. All that's available, right? We're trying to build your toolbox so that if you decide you do want to grow, you have the tools you need at our expense to be able to do that, right? So that's a 1 minute version of a 20-minute speech I can make pretty much off the top of my head. So growth is coming, and if you want growth to come to Amanda, I think most of the growth initially is going to be in the north, right? It's going to come down 33 into Lancaster, probably around Lancaster a little bit, but a lot of it's going to be up in Liberty Township, Walnut Township, and what's left of Violet Township, right? But with the Honda plant, not that far away, and with Lancaster right here, and you've got some manufacturing here, and your main manufacturer is one of the folks who always comes to us and said, we need housing, we need transportation, right? So we know there's a demand. I think when you said, well, we're just talking, kids don't have a place to live when they grow out of their home. And I imagine there's really not any retirement places around here for folks as they age out. They got to move out of Amanda, right? You go to Lancaster, go to Pickerington, or wherever. So there's an opportunity for you to do all those things. But the two things that developers ask when they talk to us is, they want to know the rules and they want to know where the water and sewer is, right? And so that's why I asked Tony to join us tonight, because he's been doing this for an awful long time, and he knows more about it than certainly I ever will, probably more about it than anybody in the county. So Tony, if you can talk about what you know about their current situation with water and sewer.
Talk about it at 50,000 feet. You probably know more about it than I do. So you guys upgraded your water treatment plant. It looks like it has a little bit of excess capacity, about 160,000 gallon.
That's it.
The wastewater lagoons, you got about 15,000.
Right. We don't have a lot of space.
So the two things that you'll want to look at is kind of, and Jeff has this map too, and I've brought copies. Look around the village and say, okay, where can we, based on the sewer lines that we have, where can we develop? And where do we have willing individuals to develop?
That's the struggle.
That's the story.
Correct. And we talked about that a little bit too. There's going to be I get developers come to me all the time and go, do you know where there's water and sewer available in a farm field that might be willing to, break it off? And I'll show them, like, here's this person you got to talk to. And they'll go talk to them. And there's a lot of them that I would have thought, hey, nah. In fact, the guy that we talked to the other day, I would have said, no way. He's going to farm the rest of his life. And his conversation in our meeting was, I'd be dumb not to do that.
No.
I'd just be dumb not to do that. I farmed all my life. That's what I thought I would do, but I would be dumb not to look at this opportunity. So there's going to be people out there that,
Does he have any relation here?
does he have any relation here? I don't think so, but I think he probably knows everybody here. But it's like you were talking about. You get some of the farmers that they're getting to 70 and they're gonna turn it over to their kids, and their kids may be willing, they might not be willing, they maybe want to go on college, and this just changes their trajectory of their family. But what they're going to come to you is going to say, hey, can you provide the water and sewer services? So being ahead of that and saying, okay, in order for us to fill out this map, what properties are there going to be? What lines do we have to get out there? Obviously, the lagoon's going to be an issue that you're going to have to change it over to a plant because they won't let you expand on the lagoon, especially you don't have much capacity anyway. But with that being said, there's a lot of opportunities and ways to be able to do that. When you're servicing unserved areas and you're in a rural area, there's a lot of funds that you can get, and I'm willing to help you out and get all those questions answered. So what I need from you guys is, what do you think? Where do you think that's going to be? Probably between me and you, we can figure out the other
So,
side.
Mr. Vogel, one of the things, and I've heard of other communities doing this, to help offset costs, if we can't get grants or whatever, is these other communities are charging these developers and these corporations impact fees. I mean,
Well, you don't want
We
to talk
have
about
that
tap
fees
fees.
already set up.
You'll have tap fees.
right.
Right, we got it.
Which is usually, impact fees you can put them towards water and sewer, but typically they don't. There are more other things that they go to.
Yeah, schools, things like that.
Yeah.
So that was my question, if we
Yeah.
can use that. But it sounds like it's maybe not a viable option.
I mean,
It's not,
so once we figure out the what and the where and the how, then we can look at myriad of options as to how to finance it, right? Some of it will be driven by development, but there's no developer that's going to come in and pay for you to have a new treatment facility, right? So we're going to have to, figure out, which the timing of it, right? So that you're not building a treatment facility that sits there for 10 years before development comes. It's we kind of really think strategically through this as to what you want and where you want it and how collectively we can service it, and then figure out what the timing would be to go and get the funding and do the plans and spend the money and build the facility. It's a complex process, but Tony's done it. We did it at Pickerington, so we'll guide you through it as best we can and happy with everything we've got. I guess one of the questions that you all need to talk about is, do you want multifamily housing, right? Apartment complex? Do you want patio homes, like a senior kind of place, right? Smaller, like almost like condos. Do you want condos? Do you want single family housing? Do you want big plots, little plots? I mean, there's, and part of this plan, and I encourage you to go to our website and download this stuff, but there's kind of descriptions of different character types of, what can be done. And it's you kind of got to figure that part out first, right? You'll have people who, when you start talking about doing multifamily housing, you'll have neighbors saying, I don't want that stuff here, right? Not in my backyard. I get that. But, if you talk about people who are working right over here, right? The school teachers, your firemen, all of those folks are candidates for multifamily housing. They're not really candidates for single family housing yet, right? As they progress in their career and they go from making $20 an hour to $30 an hour to $40 an hour, that's when they can move into a starter home and then move into a nice house. But they need a place to start. And so we're having discussions in Lancaster about doing some of that workforce housing. That's what we're calling it, right? Nice apartments, but apartments. It's a way for people to live closer to where they work. Right. And right now, your company here is importing people from all over. I mean, we've got people come up from Athens County who work in Fairfield County. We got people in Fairfield County going to Columbus. Part of what we're trying to do all across the county is make it so that people can raise their family and go to work all within a reasonable drive, right? So they're not driving 45 minutes to an hour to get to a $20 an hour job, right? So multifamily housing is one option. If you've got an opportunity to build a small group of patio homes or senior homes, right? It gives the folks who, part of the community's redevelopment is seniors selling their homes to the next generation, right? And if there's no place for the seniors to go, they're going to stay there until they die, and that prevents other people from moving into those houses. So providing that option is a thing to consider. When you talk about single family developments, right, suburban neighborhoods, those you will be attracted because you've got a great school system, and yet you're still kind of country, right? So there are options for you, and you could do all of those things. You kind of want to talk through what makes the most sense for your community, and looking not 2 years down the road, but 20 years down the road, what's going to make the most sense? How are you going to attract people here to work here, which once you've got a good workforce here, more business will look here, and it kind of perpetuates itself, right? So those are all things that you guys have to really kind of figure out what you want to do. The where, will partially depend on where you've got those lines already running. You don't want to build way far away from your current water and sewer lines because that costs a lot of money. You build out to that spot over time, you can continue to do that. So, once you figure out the what, then based on that, we can come up with some calculations on capacity, right, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
Number of housing units, is it single family, multifamily, whatever. What kind of water we need to run into those. We know what kind of sewer lines we need to run to those. And then based on that, given your current capacity, what needs to be built, right? And said they're pretty close to capacity in their water.
Or wastewater.
Wastewater.
Or wastewater is.
15.
Water,
I understand that. So the water, is the water
Right now.
situation
They don't know
better?
what the well looks like.
Is the water
Well,
situation
that'd be,
better?
we might have to add an extra well or something, but we,
And is there water there?
Yeah, so.
yeah, there's water
So
there.
over the past
So you got.
year or
We've got
so,
water.
we've recognized there's been some problems with our wells. We've been reaching out to some of our local farmers to try to access land to build another well. So far, that's not going so well. See what I did
I see
there?
what you did there.
So I think that's one of our concerns is, to be able to plan for this is we have to have accessible land without the eminent domain word. We have to have cooperation from our local farmers to be able to give us land or let us purchase land to be able to upgrade that system.
Our lagoon system right now, when we go to start talking about a water treatment facility, what are the options of building the water treatment facility close to the existing lagoons and then using that property, reusing that property another way if we have to fill in those lagoons or whatever? Is that a possibility or?
Yeah, that's what I assume, and you can correct me where I'm wrong anywhere. And I didn't bring any of these, but I just picked the lagoon up on our GIS, and I assume the easiest place to go is going to be out west towards the lagoon, because that's where your biggest trunk sewer is going to be, is taking it out to the lagoon.
There's currently enough space to put one more lagoon if the EPA allowed it, so you could always utilize that land too.
Yeah, there was enough said that when they initially put it in to go to an extra cell. I'm not sure at this stage whether the EPA will, they're not real keen on
I would guess that
these.
they're not.
I'm doubting we'd have a hard time probably getting that.
They definitely would, even if they let you put another cell in, they probably would not let you expand customers based on that.
I had a similar question, Dwayne, and I'm not an engineer in any capacity. With the lagoons, are we able to build them in or make a treatment
you could
facility
put it-
there?
yeah.
The
Yeah,
waste-
you could,
Before we develop much, we want to consider that waste since we're 15,000 shy of capacity, right? Is that right?
No, we're 15,000. We're about 15,000 is about all we could take more than what we're taking
So
now.
if we're
Is that a
developing,
daily number or?
Yeah,
That's
probably a daily.
And so Tony,
This is process.
so forgive my ignorance, but what does 15,000 gallons a day look like? Is that a 20-unit apartment complex or a 50, single family houses or?
I would probably
I'd
say,
say, I'm trying to think on what the average apartment might use. Most of them people probably use like 2,000 gallon a month. So what would that figure out to be about a day?
7 or 8 homes, or no?
That's on average. In smaller places, that's what,
You
where there's
said
only a couple
2,000,
people,
yeah,
usually
$2,000.
it was about 2,000 gallon a day.
I think
on
the
average.
average is around 4. The
70
national average, I
gallons
think
a
is
day.
4,000.
But on an apartment, you're only gonna have 2 people and you're not
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
use that
that's
kind of
true.
water. Now a family, yes, I agree with the family, but
Right.
on an apartment or like most of your older people, where there's only 2 in the house, I'm saying you're averaging around 2,000 gallon a month.
say it's, if you put it in single family homes, you're probably like 10 to 12.
Okay,
So
so
apartment, you're probably a little bit,
20 maybe a little more.
20.
yeah, so you're there, basically.
You don't have much expansion.
Right, so, and gonna put you on the spot a bunch of times tonight. You talk about a treatment facility that would allow them to handle their current capacity plus. What is something like that cost?
I
Well,
I can tell you, the guy that does some of our
Is what
stuff
they
for
said.
us, he worked over at the Correctional Institute. They just put a new one in here just a year or 2 ago. And it was over $6 million.
And how much do they handle?
what's their size?
I don't know what they're handling over there.
I could find out.
I just know that
My
that's what
guess
he
was-
told me.
My guess was going to be around 2 million, and then what you would do is build it to be expandable.
Yeah, and then you might be able, I don't know what but
I don't know what they
Southern
put in.
Ohio Correctional, I don't know what
Is
they
that what they did?
Yeah, that's
There's
where he,
probably a lot
3
bigger
to
than,
6 mil on it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking 3 mils, what?
so, right, so let's
He
just,
told us
let's
six,
use
is what he
3 million
told.
as a number to start with, right? Cause Tony's saying 2,
right.
3 million plus, things aren't getting any cheaper, so.
Oh, yeah.
And then a
Time
couple
to
years
go
out,
get
it
something.
probably costs higher to do it. So once you all decide, what you want and kind of where you think it makes the most sense to put it, then we can start really getting into, looking at costs and the opportunities that there are for financing. And I'm the furthest thing from an expert on how to finance these things. I know there's grants out there, I know there's state money out there, maybe federal money out there. Tony, you can talk to that a lot more than I can.
Yeah, I mean, this in my 17 years in this position, there's more money out there now than there ever has been for water and sewer. Transportation has always been a lot of money, but so if you got things, there's a lot for serving under unserved areas, being in rural USDA type areas. There's just a lot of, and what we do is we just tap into all of those. You probably come up with myriad of places where you're getting money. And for the finance person, it's probably going to be a little bit hectic, but that's what you'll do. You kind of just pull all those together in order to make it. What's your tap fees? That's
We're-
fees.
7,500
For
for
sewer.
sewer and
37.50.
750 for water.
So I have a subdivision, and I'll just say that single family homes. It was put on 66 acres. It has 138 lots. So if you had, let's say you had 50 acres and you had 100 homes, you're talking about $750,000 in tap fees that you're going to get from that. That helps offset that $2 to $3 million project that you're going to finance over 20 or 30 years. So as you have those customers on that are paying their water and sewer bills, obviously that's what you do in the utility business. You're trying to build it and have the loans out there that you're kind of bringing these customers on, and then you get out so far and where I'm at. I got the money now. I'm going to go out and try to expand in some other areas. But that's kind of, and getting back to what you would do is you probably look out somewhere on this west side and say, okay, we're going to put it here, and close to the lagoon as you can, if that's possible, because then you can use the lagoon property as you decommission the lagoon property.
Where's the sheriff?
There's always that one.
He's already blown like 4 of them. It'll just a matter of time. It'll blow that one too.
He probably is only going 2 miles an hour.
She
without
lives
that
right
sound.
And
lives right there.
he lives next door.
So
He's
Commissioner-
harmless.
Commissioner Fix, can you potentially forecast when we could be expecting a growth? Because I agree, it's only be in the northern end of the county.
Yeah,
5 years, 2 years, 1 year. I mean, what's a realistic time frame to start planning for this?
yeah,
When is the Intel plant to be done?
25.
2025.
Yeah, that's.
And you said
I
something
mean,
about a Honda plant
Yeah,
going in?
the Honda battery plant's gonna have more of an impact on you guys, I think, than Intel will, because you're a good 50 minutes.
They're probably about the same for us.
I know people who drive
I-
that
I know
far,
that-
40.
I know that they're really trying
the
to
Honda?
prepare 40 minutes from Intel.
Right.
Yeah, we're
No.
almost an hour.
And trying to start
Every
in
year.
40 minutes.
A year early 2024.
But I don't even, honestly, I don't even know about
Yeah, I
this
don't
Honda
think I-
battery.
So-
Oh, you haven't heard about it?
That's
an
So
hour
the
away
big circle
from
you're
our house.
talking
I don't
about
think that's
Intel, when they started at 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes,
Yeah.
40 minutes, and they just expanded out. So we are in the 60-minute window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to the other way, Mansfield will be within the 60-minute window. So from Intel to Mansfield is about the same as it is from here to Intel.
Yeah, I'm thinking that we're going to probably see the second wave of that, and the people that don't want to live in that area anymore are going to push towards us.
Well-
That's my
Yeah,
forecast
that,
thinking.
that may be. You've got demand here already, right?
Yeah.
You've got a manufacturer down the road that has people, again, that they're having to bring in from other places because
Absolutely.
there's no
Well,
place to live
She
here.
I think that
wishes
the
there was
people who are
places here that
closest
she
to the
could
Intel
live
plant there in
her work.
Pataskala,
Who's that Midwest?
New Albany area.
Yeah, she can't-
So if you live in Reynoldsburg
Because you can't get them
or
close
in
enough to-
any of those surrounding areas, you're gonna wanna get a job there.
Setting on
And
enough
then
land
those,
you could
that opens up all the jobs in
herself.
Reynoldsburg
And
and
she
now
probably
Winchester and
I mean, if there
Carroll.
was a
And
possibility,
so
yeah,
there are gonna
she
be people
probably
from
would.
this
I mean,
area
she's not
wanting
serious.
jobs
She
in
talks
those
all the time.
areas.
Mr.
So it's just
Vogel,
gonna
you're saying
shift,
that
but
the Midwest
But there are already
um,
people who are
owner
in
is
this
trying to
area
find homes
that are
for her
commuting every day. And I
employees.
know
I
one of
didn't
them
hear part
personally.
of that conversation.
Homes or
Well,
transportation.
he works
Reynoldsburg.
for
I
They
see.
Can't get
company,
here.
one of the
Okay.
companies I
This is
I
her
heard
biggest,
that's
you know,
doing
she
all
has
the
it in
work
Lancaster
around
and
that area.
everything, but
So he's
There's
driving
a
there
big-
and back every
Yeah,
day.
so
Yeah,
most
yeah.
of the manufacturers
no
here,
place
a
to
lot of
live
that's
there.
in there,
Right.
just
Absolutely. And
where they
So,
and one of the reasons
Coding.
coding and stuff like that, yeah.
attractive is their tax base for sales is.
They're a little concerned with this darn
I mean, it's, you know,
UAW
what I'm
strike,
paying down
because it-
here for
they
taxes.
they rely
overall,
on the auto industry
won't
big
even
time,
touch
and then
$100,000
it's gonna,
on
if it's
repair.
lasts very long, it's gonna.
so let me answer your question as best I can, and then I'm gonna throw another thing on the table. I would say that start planning now.
Mhm.
And that, developers are attracted to places where they have what they call certainty of execution, right? And so if they know that you're ready and you're willing, and that the zoning process is not going to be, a bunch of people with torches and pitchforks screaming at them, right? And you've got the water and sewer capacity, and you've got the land there, they will find you. I would say, start your planning process now. It's going to take you a year to figure all this stuff out. By the time we get to this part of 2024, you're already going to be hearing things, right, about people coming into Fairfield County.
wow.
So I wouldn't sit on it for too long. I don't know if it's going to be 2 years or 5 years, or I don't know. I don't have that crystal ball, but it's coming. And the communities that are welcoming and ready are going to get the attention first, right? So if you're ready to grow, and I've talked to the Amanda Township trustees, and they're like, hey, if they want to annex, we'll go with it. So you're not going to have a fight there, which is a big deal in some places, right? So the opportunity is going to be in front of you, and it's worst case scenario is you guys do your plan and you get ready and everything's ready to go. You haven't, done the treatment plant yet, but you figured out how much it's going to cost, where the money's going to come from. And then you say, okay, let's see what happens, right? Let's wait 6 months and see what happens, or let's wait a year, right? That's the worst thing that could happen, is that you guys invest a bunch of time and effort into planning and nothing happens. I'm not going to say that isn't a possibility. It certainly is, but everything I'm hearing, and we know the demand is skyrocketing for housing. So if you're ready, they'll find you.
I'll add that Intel is preferring their subs to be outside of the 30-minute ring.
Okay.
Well, that's odd. It's usually the opposite. They always want
Well,
to.
they don't want to compete with workers.
Yeah.
You know,
They want them out, so that way they're close enough that they can bring the supplies, but they're not competing with the same workforce.
So the Route 33 corridor is becoming very appealing, right? And you guys are close enough to that that it's worth your time, I guess is the best way to put it. It's worth your time to start figuring this stuff out.
barbecue.
I hope you're counting on that.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about is your school system, right? Amanda it's all about the schools, right? How are they on capacity, and how are they going to feel if you say, hey, we want to bring in 100 new families?
Well, they just had to put in a mobile classroom at the primary.
Yeah, they don't have capacity. That's they're pretty much
Yeah.
full.
So, yeah, they're,
They'd have to.
even when they built the schools, from what I understand in my limited mind capacity, is that when they built it, they underestimated their growth. So they built it and it was almost immediately at capacity. Am I right on that,
Right.
Dwayne?
It was, because they had to build, originally they planned on having everybody in the
Yes,
big building, and
they
they
planned
ended
on
up,
having just a
as soon as they
K-12.
opened up, they had to build a K2 up here because they didn't have room enough
So-
down there.
I asked that question because, once this conversation gets out of this room on TV, people are going to start, well, what about the schools? How are you going to take care of the schools, right? And that can be a big problem.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to start a conversation with your school superintendent. Say, hey, this is what we're thinking. And we want to make sure that you're part of the conversation, right? Because the last thing you want is for them to hear about it somewhere and then they come in screaming. So, make sure.
Mark might know a little more about that.
Yeah, I know a few things.
Make
I work
sure,
there.
yeah, well, make sure they're a part of the conversation so they know what you're thinking about, and they too then can plan for their future. Because if you build, 100 homes, you're going to have 50 more kids in those schools, and that's in a town this size. That's a lot of new kids.
Absolutely.
Well, the new improvement plan that they just installed is building onto the K2 building. I think 8 to 12 classrooms there. There's room up in the 312 building for another wing without really hurting the footprint. So but that costs
Yeah,
taxpayer
that's
money.
right. I don't think they're worried about their footprint as much as they're about the pocketbook.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everybody thinks that $20 million is real money until you start spending it on improving your facilities, and
Yeah,
it goes in a
quick.
hurry.
Yeah.
But they do, the school board does have a basic plan of immediate structures of what we need. Now, you get, like you say, one housing development, and you're averaging 50, 60 kids coming in just out of the first phase of that. Then you incorporate that over 5 to 10 years, and you go from 115 kids in a class to close to 200 real quick.
Yeah, right. So, the point of all that is to start that conversation so that they're not blindsided by it and they're not angry with you about it, because they'll fill a room pretty quick, right? With pissed off parents who don't want to pay more taxes. So there's, and there's financial tools that we can talk about as we go on how to make sure the schools are okay, and we'll deal with all that stuff, but make sure that they're at the table. At some point, you're going to want to have a conversation with the township. They're going to be providing fire services, I assume you guys know. If you build 50 homes, it's important, but not life-changing for the fire department. If you build 500 homes, they're going to need a new fire station somewhere, right? And so there's all those conversations that come with growth. So it's a complex issue, and it's a great issue to have to deal with, right? The opportunity to grow is something that not every community has. We're very fortunate in Central Ohio. We're very fortunate in Fairfield County that there's a lot of people all of a sudden that want to be a part of this. So it's a good issue to have to deal with, but you're gonna have to invest some time.
So right now, for a community our size, and I realize we're really early into this, what would be smart growth numbers for us?
How many people live here in the village?
About
Yeah,
750.
Yeah, 750 around there.
And so, that's a question that you guys have to, figure out. Do you want 2,000 people living here? Do you want 1,000 people living here? And look out over 20 years, right? How big do you want your village to be? Bye, Char, thank you for inviting me tonight. I
Of
appreciate
course,
it.
thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So I think obviously, for me, I wouldn't want to see us hurt the city size. I
Okay.
wouldn't want to see that
That's-
5,000 plus.
Okay. All right.
And that's just me. And I know we've talked about Licking County, because I've worked in Pataskla area forever. And that was their hesitation, from going from that small town country feel to this huge city. But the reality of it up there is you have access to Reynoldsburg, you have access to New Albany, you have access, where we're stuck
You're on the
basically in the
island
middle
here,
between Circleville and Lancaster.
So, you know, that is a part of that conversation that you have about, you know, where you want to grow and in what ways and by how much. Right? When I moved into Pickerington, there were, I think, 12,000 people that lived in the city and another 12 or 13,000 that lived in the township. And now it's 25,000
Oh,
each.
yeah.
And they're, you know, if you look at the numbers in some of these reports, it's going to double again. You know?
Go back to 1975 and Pickerington was that size.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll go back to
That's on the stage, didn't it?
since you're talking about Pataskala. Pataskala didn't want to grow, but everything else grew around it.
Yeah.
So all the
Yeah.
houses are now not in Pataskala, but they're all outside of it. So it was like, okay,
Well-
was that a smart decision?
Well, there is a lot of growth in Pataskala proper, there really
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
But, and I agree with you, because the land that's available in Pataskala proper is limited. So they're building, you know, they're buying farm fields, they're buying this and that to build on. So I actually work in Jersey Township, like literally 3 miles from the Intel site.
Mhm.
So now a developer has bought a large horse farm up there at Mink and Morse. And they're talking, basically what we're talking here, they want to start, it wants to be a community of apartments, single family homes, mixed use stuff. Which they will get because they're so close to the site. My issue is that if we don't start planning for growth, and a township decides they want to grow, then we have nowhere to go once that is, unless we do an annexation.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, talking about the Pataskala area, where Etna Township is, they butt up to Reynoldsburg. They've been butting heads for 20-something years, because Etna doesn't want Reynoldsburg pushing in, but it's already happening. I mean, they built new schools out on Summit Road. That's Pataskala City still, but it is Reynoldsburg schools.
Yep.
So they're fighting the losing battle.
And part of that problem is that the Etna Township trustees are crazy, or at least one of them is.
Mr.
In you know, I mean, I read the papers and I, you know, worked with a guy who worked with them for about 6 months and heard all the stories.
Mhm.
You don't want that here,
Right.
right? You don't want to turn against each other. And, you know, have that. You don't want to fight with the township. There's a way to do this smart growth that everybody can win, right? We can talk about eventually doing JEDs or CEDAs or, you know, stuff like that. So the
Right.
township,
TIFs, and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
yeah, so the township can pay for their fire department, right, and things like that. So, sorry. So, you know, again, it's layered and there's a lot to it. The fact that you're sitting here tonight wanting to start it is a great first step.
You've made statement that the township's agreeable. I've been in this political mess for 24 years, and I'm telling you, it's not in purple, it's township. And they don't, they can tell you anything they want to tell you, and they listen to me right now. But there has been a battle over land, the restaurant that was just built down here. Wanted to incorporate it. They go to the owner and say, oh, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Get their services up.
Yeah, and
get
so
the
that's I mean, the way the state was set up constitutionally and the revised code is set up so that villages can grow and townships,
And shrink.
right. And so the key though is that you have to be able to provide services. So if you've got the water and sewer, you've got the key to any developer that comes in and says, I want to annex 100 acres and it's contiguous and you can provide services, nothing's going to stop them. Right? I mean, but it would be better if the township felt like there was a partnership there where you had some kind of JED or a CEDA where they could get, you know, a portion, not, you know, a ton, but a portion that will help them pay for the services that they need to provide so that they don't feel like they're getting eaten alive.
So one of the things, and maybe you can enlighten me. So in that area, the Intel area that's still Licking County, that's Monroe Township. And this will be basically 161 corridor. They've been talking about an overlay. Not so much a JEDS or a CEDA, but an overlay. What does that actually entail?
So we can do a planned unit district, a PUD, which has all kinds of things that you can do with it. You can do a community development authority. If you do that, you can put your own taxes, your own tax structure. If you want to put incremental property taxes there to help pay for your water and sewer, you can. If you want to put an income tax on it, you can. Sales tax probably doesn't make sense if you're doing residential. But, and you can't get too crazy with it because people won't want to live there if they got to pay an extra 20 points in taxes. But
Yeah.
you can use that tool to help finance some of the things that you're going to need to do to be able to grow.
And I think one of the things that's attractive about this community in particular is our tax base is low. I mean, you're not paying $4,000 or $5,000 on $100,000 or $150,000 home.
Yeah.
But I can also foresee that with growth becoming an increase.
Right. And if you do a community development authority, the taxes are only on that development.
Okay.
Right? So let's say you want to put an extra 5 points in property tax on that development. So those homeowners are paying, for the new stuff, right? They're paying for the new roads, they're paying for the new schools, they're paying for whatever.
Okay.
There's all kinds of creative ways to generate revenue so that your current residents aren't screaming at you about raising their taxes. So nobody wants to raise taxes.
Yeah. The unfortunate reality of it doesn't happen. So,
It does. And look, if they vote on it to pay for a school building or they vote on it to pay for a fire department, it's their choice, right? But if you're bringing in development and they feel like they're going to end up paying for it, you're going to have angry voters in this room. Sure. If you've got a plan that says, here's how we're going to pay for these things, I think they'll feel like they're going to get the benefits of growth without having to find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ben and I met with Alan and Trevor yesterday to go over some projects that we have for our 5-year plan, and to look at John Street. And we did bring up the possibility of growth, and we do have our development plan and for our zoning and stuff. And then we talked to them about, being that we had never dealt with growth, and they did say that they, as there are engineers, that they have people that focuses on development of them. So they are going to be able to help us when that happens.
Yeah, you're going to need help, right?
Yeah.
You're going to need, if you do a treatment facility and you hope getting that running, even if, just doing your plan and updating your codes and things like that, you may need help with that. And we've got folks that, regional planning might be able to help you if it goes beyond that. We've got folks that we're working with that we can put you in touch with to.
We just redid our code, so
Okay.
we're pretty up to date. He was saying for us, working with the developers, making sure everything's, that they would definitely have people that
Good.
can work with us with that
Good.
to help us. So we're making sure we're getting everything. All of our ducks are in the row.
So when you say regional planning, you're talking about Morpsey?
No.
No?
Talking about our regional planning commission.
Okay. There's a county regional.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got people there who deal with this stuff every day. Tony's dealing with 12 developments now up in Violet Township. So
That's some of when you talked about your codes being what height where you're able to install, they're wanting to know all those things. So,
yeah, so
that's what
we'll work with you to review your codes because what you have, I'm sure, is really good for what you have today, but you may need to look at things differently if you want to bring in an apartment complex or homes or multifamily development or single family development. And that's why we're doing all of the work on our end so that you can then say, okay, well, those codes look good. We want to add this and delete this and have a really good starting point and so part of that's regional planning, part of that's Tony, part of that's our engineer. We're working really hard to try to get all that stuff in place that it's then easy for you to pull that stuff down and at least have something to reference.
Plus, it helps being consistent with everybody in the area.
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's what the
You know, it's,
developers are looking for.
Yeah, the developer, when we get to the point where you're ready to entertain people, they really, that one phrase keeps ringing in my head. Certainty of execution, right? They want to know what the rules are. They want to know what the fees are. They want to know what the process is, and they'll figure out if they can do it, right? They'll say, well, yeah, I can do this, and I can make money doing this, right? Or I can't. What they don't like is when the rules aren't really clear, or they change midway, or oh, we forgot about this, and oh, here's another fee, or that stuff drives them crazy, and they'll avoid doing business in communities that are like that. So if you're able to a year from now get everything buttoned up and have your plan and have your codes and regulations and your fee structures and all that stuff ready to go, and we've got a plan for the water and sewer.
I don't even know the last time our substation's been updated. I can't even tell. I don't remember anybody that's been working out there in forever.
So it sounds like for us at this point, we need to get on the water and the sewer, since we're almost at capacity, before we can even entertain going,
You got
grabbing more land.
you got to figure out what you want first.
Yes.
Right? What do you want? How big do you want to be? Where do you want to? Where does it make the most sense to go? And then we can start talking about water and sewer.
Okay.
Right? Because
So have the plan laid out before we
well,
start.
have an idea, right? You have to say we want exactly this much in exactly this place. But if you have an idea that we want to grow to 2,000 in the next 10 years, and in that we want 500 of those to be single family homes, and we want 200 to be apartments or whatever that mix is, right? When you get that mix down on paper, then Tony will do the you guys will do the calculations and say, okay, we need this much water, we need this much sewer, and based on that, we need to upgrade the water facility this way, and we need to build a new water or sewer plant that'll do this, right? And then that'll be the math, and then it's a matter of finding the funding and how much do you need to go out and get bonded or a note, or that all cascades, and then we'll reach out to the developers and say, come on down to Amanda.
My big thing is, over the years, Benny and I have been here, every time we hear that, this company wants to buy this lot, and then it gets down so far, and then it falls through. The water and sewer improvements that we need, I'm all for, but what happens if we over water and sewer improvement? And in 10 years, you still have the Stoneburner land, the landfill land, the Miller land,
Because nobody came.
the Young land.
And
Yeah,
nobody-
right. So that's the kind of the fine line that we're going to need to walk, right? Is to have the plans ready to expand, and then as soon as there's an inkling of someone buying the land, hit the button and go. You don't want to build a beautiful new facility and nobody ever comes down here, because then your current residents will be paying at some point.
So basically what I'm hearing then is the water we know we need to have a water system upgrade. We know we need to have a sanitary upgrade, and we're going to have to do something within the next 10 years. It's
Water's not
need.
as crucial right at this point as what the sanitary. The sanitary is a definite.
Sanitary is probably within the next 5.
Yeah, I would say we might be able to stretch 10 out of this water treatment plant, but
Yeah.
you might have to drill an extra well or something.
I appreciate
But you might, sanitary just can't take it.
No, that's sanitary is going to have to be,
Yes.
and I would say that's your first thing is
Yeah.
to try and tackle that.
Yeah.
But you also want to look at tackle, because you can tackle it for the services that you have right now. But that wouldn't be wise.
Yeah,
You want to be able to have a little bit of capacity and then have the ability to maybe double its size.
Yeah.
So here's my footprint. Here's what I'm gonna. And it's gonna add 300 homes, 200 homes. And then, when we get that next development and all those properties that you said, when they happen, that's when we're gonna have a mirror of what we have here, and we're just gonna have two trains of treatment.
Right. The one thing I
Tony,
do
thanks so
like,
much.
one
Appreciate
thing I do
you.
like
Love
to talk
everything you
about,
guys say.
sir, is
Thank you,
that the planning for our retirees, for our older population, because
Gotta go somewhere.
yeah, it's quite evident right now that if they are being pushed out of their homes, not being pushed out of their homes, but have to,
Aging out of their homes,
aging
yeah.
out of their homes,
Yeah.
that there's nothing attractive to keep
Yeah.
them here.
Yeah.
So they're looking at the Lancasters, they're looking at the Circlevilles, the Pickeringtons.
Yeah.
Florida.
Florida.
We're going to Florida.
Right.
Well, people
know-
want to go to Florida.
I'm looking
They're
at
gonna go
Florida
anyway,
already.
so they're not gonna keep it.
I think
There's-
we have like 4 properties here in town that they bought and they have already got it approved to do dual housing that are handicap accessible for elderly.
Right.
But then the market went to where everything's expensive and they
They
just.
didn't do it.
And these are just like lots behind here. and
Yeah,
a
and I
few
can
other
tell
places.
you, in both Lancaster and Pickerington, they're, we're working on workforce housing. People who are, really hitting the gas, are the people who are building those elderly communities, right? Because our population is aging, right? All of us sitting at this table, except for maybe you guys.
There's a few of
I
them.
promise, I'm looking at it.
He doesn't know how to dance that way.
Right, it's gonna happen in the
Yeah.
next 10 or 15 years
Yeah.
that, I'm gonna downsize out of my home. I've got options in Pickerington, but if I live in Amanda, I've got a nice home that I could, sell for a reasonable price.
Where am I gonna go?
I'm gonna have to move, a half hour out of Amanda, and then I can't watch my grandkid play football as easy or
Right.
whatever, right? But, so I make that part of your plan if you can. It doesn't have to be huge, but I think you'd be surprised how quickly something like that would fill up if you had that available.
Well, I think apartments are important as well. I have 3 kids, all live with me.
Mhm.
2 are adults who could be living in an apartment right now, but
There's no
cost of
place to go.
living,
Oh, yeah.
there's no place to go.
Yeah.
So it's just more convenient for them to live with me and we function that way. But where are our children gonna live? Your daughter's looking for a house right now. She has nowhere in this community to go,
No?
but she wants to raise her kids out here. And I want to see my grandchildren
Right, so it's a starting
Heaven
point.
forbid.
Right? It's a starting point for
grow
your,
up here.
it's a starting point for your kids, starting point for your daughter. It's a way for them to stay in the community and save some money so that they can buy one of the homes in that new community or buy one of these homes, right? And fix it up and away they go. So, but you gotta have a starting point. If they move to Pickerington or Lancaster or Circleville or Columbus or, somewhere else in their apartment, they're gonna put roots down there, they're gonna get their job up there, and they're gonna be 40 minutes away.
Sure.
And, that's not what any of us want for a kid, so.
And that's the tough conversation you have with the community. I mean, because that's what you want. You want to be able to be inviting
Yeah.
to have.
Yeah.
When you build roots here, you'd like to continue that.
I know a lot about Amanda, and they don't want their football players going down and playing in Logan Elm and coming
Right.
back to play.
Yeah, right.
So
I got a grandson like that. You're not telling me anything.
Yeah,
See,
I think that's a lot of where our
but you
development's
gotta
gonna
have
come
the
from.
ability to have that, and I think you guys thinking about it ahead of time is really going to put you in a situation. I think you're close enough to Lancaster bypass and the industry that's going to be there that people are going to like this community. They're going to like your school system. They're going to like the things that they get here, and that's what when they're kind of looking. That's what draws them to it. That's why your kids are still here.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's
That's-
really because of Christie's Pizza. I mean,
Well, when you got,
But they're all over.
when you got 22
Apparently you
22
haven't had Tommy Wayne's.
connection,
There.
33 and 22. So
Right.
you have a connecting point.
Yeah, we've got a decent corridor here. I mean,
you do. I mean, you're not in the heart of it, right?
right.
And you're not up north, but you're easy enough to get to that someone who is working in Lancaster or is working in Circleville would look here if they could find something.
Sure.
Right. So you're on the right path. You got some work to do, and we're willing to help you in any way we can, right?
We appreciate it.
We'll bring in the experts and talk you through the process and all that stuff. But you guys have to start with that conversation about how big you want to be and what kind of homes you want. And I'm going to leave this with you. I would go to that plan on our website. It's not done yet because we haven't had enough conversations like this around with all the townships and villages. But check that out, and there's some good information in there. And we'll work with you on
That's on the commissioner's
Yes,
website.
sir. Yes, it is.
I'll make copies for
Thank
everybody's
you, I
box for
appreciate
Monday.
that. Thank you.
I think one of the
And
things
these
that would make
tips.
this community more attractive is, we've got 2 pizza places in a subway.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying we want the McDonald's and Wendy's and all that stuff, but options for shopping, options for meals, options for
Drugstore.
something like that,
Businesses.
because
Yeah, and
Well,
even mom and pops,
So
you
listen,
know.
so retail follows rooftops,
Mhm.
right? So if the retail group says, oh, look what's going on in Amanda, they're building 100 homes, they're building 50 apartments, so they're doing this, they're doing that.
Mhm.
The drugstore will figure out how to get here, and eventually maybe you'll grow big enough to have your own grocery store down here and stuff like. So
well, we do have $2 stores.
Right,
Each in a town.
right.
We
And-
used to have a grocery store years
it
ago.
drives me
Yes, we
crazy, but
did.
that's where you guys have to go to do. Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gets
so,
the job done.
yeah, I get it. But it's good to have options, right? And
Yeah.
so the retail will come as you start to grow, and you'll find it amazing how quickly that retail will follow once you start building down here. They'll know, and they'll want to come down here.
So another question for you, maybe you can answer, maybe you can't. So, we have 159 out here, we have 22 here. What is the likelihood of a developer getting access off of the state highway? I know I've heard that, they don't want to give you the right of ways, they don't want to do this. So for us,
That's a limited
yeah,
access.
22 is
Can't
more
do
than likely going to be the access.
Except for that section.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yes,
Jeremiah
you can do
question.
what? And then from here to Delmar.
And I don't want to mislead you with bad information, and that's really not my area of expertise.
Okay.
I can tell you that, in Pickerington, they're working really hard to close off access to 33, right? And we're going to, hopefully build that connector. But, you've seen all the lights that used to be on 33 are all going away. So the idea of putting another light in on a limited access highway or road isn't really appealing, but that's much more of a Jeremiah question.
Okay.
Is there any
Tell me
plans
about
for?
that.
So your
bypassing 20?
biggest thing is on 22, it's all limited access.
Right.
Here.
Or
Any plans?
on that side of the court, all the way to
Yes.
Delmar.
'Cause that's-
Yeah.
It's like from the
So,
other
You know, it
side.
used to
You
be
don't have
33
trouble
bypass,
getting there.
well, 22
But-
bypass around Lancaster, because that
If you
was
get
getting crazy.
like you're in the points that you have access and they become, then they'll look at expanding them.
There's the original plans for the 22.
Yeah, there is. It's got all of the, for
When they
22,
made
159,
limited
it's got the aerial views
And they took
where they
it
took
down.
pictures and tried to come up with scenarios. It's pretty
So I
cool.
saw recently a plan that had from 1960, it had a bypass all the way around Lancaster. Right. So there's we're taking some heat up north about trying to build a connector between 33 and 70. And all the farmers up there are like, yeah, you
Oh,
can't do
yes.
that, right? But it's needed, and it would benefit everybody. And the farmers who have land that would be near that would benefit greatly financially. So
Yeah.
it's but we've been talking about it for 20 years, and it'll probably be another 20 years.
Yeah, because the big problem up there that, I keep hearing, with 70 and 310 being the only access, not the Mink Road bypass, or not the bypass, the Mink Road overpass and doing this and doing that. And it's just like, you know, that talk has been perpetuating in the
Well-
25 years I've been there, but now it's starting to.
Yeah, and it's
could
getting,
become
it's
more of
getting
a
some
reality.
traction, right? The idea is to connect Intel
Mhm.
all the way down to Rickenbacker.
Right.
Right, and so Fairfield County's kind of, you know, a big chunk of that. So Licking County would do their part, Fairfield County do our part, so on, Pickaway County do their part, Franklin County, and it's all Department of Transportation money, it's all federal money, and it's, you know, that kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight. But if you plan for it, which we're doing, the likelihood of it happening increases.
Right.
Right. So we're working really hard to get everybody to understand it's not a bad thing, and it's not, you know, we're not taking up all the farmland in Fairfield County.
Yeah, I'd love to have one easy commute to work
Yeah.
that doesn't involve 5,000 turns,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and just, you know, I mean, so if you think about all the people that go up 33 into Franklin County every day to go to work, if you take some of those people off of that road and send them up north, right? Because that's the only way to get up north,
Mhm.
is to go into town 270 and up. If you make it easier for them to get off of 33, that loosens up 33. We're expanding 33, but that's not going to fix it. Right?
Sure.
The more we build down here, yeah, the more cars go down that road. So it's needed. It's, you know, it's
been needing extra lanes or something.
we're having fun with it.
Yeah, because I remember when they were talking about the bypass, it's going to loosen up so much traffic in Lancaster. Oh,
The thing is, I worked in Lancaster for the water department, and we thought, well, maybe they get that bypass and it'll cut down.
oh no.
It didn't cut, I don't know,
No,
I'm not saying it
especially
didn't
at
cut some
noon.
down, but it cut very little.
Look
Not-
at all
not
the
like they thought it
development
would.
Right,
there
that's
from like the mall out, up to
Right,
where the
right.
bypass
Keene
meets.
Road and Coon Path.
I mean, just within the last 20 years or so,
So-
it's huge.
So people were talking about the bypass was a traffic alleviation. It's an economic development tool, right? And our leg of, you know, our connector between 33 and 70, yeah, we talk about traffic, but it's an economic development tool, right? If you all of a sudden make it really easy to get from up north down into
Down
Fairfield
here.
County, all that land becomes really valuable. And, you know, you'll see development all down that corridor, which comes down 33, which eventually comes down here. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess one of the things that was amazing too is, you know, as soon as we build that bypass, there's gonna be a McDonald's and there's gonna be this.
Yeah,
And so far we've had a Love's and
we got Hardee's.
Hey,
with the Hardee's, and that's pretty much it.
yeah.
that's for sure.
And it's not even on the bypass, it is
Yeah.
off the bypass on 188, so.
I remember
it'll
you
come.
had Sims go in there at Delmont. That's a development, even if it's off. It's another gas station.
Part of it
True.
is you gotta realize that in Cape US 2035, you can build those, but you also have to plan for the water and sewer because they're not gonna develop it.
Good
And
point.
Lancaster was not willing to go
Good
out.
point.
You're on the stretch, yeah.
Yeah. So then once they got out there to their industrial park, now you're starting to
Mhm.
see.
Yeah.
It's closer.
But if you didn't, I mean, if they didn't bring water and sewer out there, it would be exactly like US 35. If you've ever driven it,
Yeah.
We put water out there when I was clear out to Mount Zion, because we put a tank and stuff out. They ended up shutting it down because it didn't have enough usage
So
to keep the flow up, so we had
that's
to shut
another
it down.
thing. I
You're
think it's
going to
valid.
it.
Out there on off of Mount
Industrial.
Zion.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got Midwest here,
Yeah.
but we do have some businesses like they're on Amanda Northern. Somebody had a boring business, correct? Was it Rocky Rower?
Yeah, Rocky had.
I'm not sure if he's still there. That was a long time
Something
ago.
directional.
Remember, you
blind.
got Trayton, who just developed out there on 16th Road. It's ginormous
Right.
out there now, but there are going to be those businesses.
Well, there are. So let me say this. If you have the water and the sewer and the workforce and a place for the workforce to live, those kind of developments will happen as well. You know, retail will come to follow the rooftops, but light industrial will, if there's a workforce here and they don't have to ship in from somewhere, they'll look here.
Yeah.
And that pays a lot of bills.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, there's several businesses that went in there by Sims. Landscaping, there's automobile.
Yeah, but I call them mom and pop businesses.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're talking about like Midwest, right? I mean, another company that size
Yes.
could come here. But if they come here today and
It's
look,
It's
they're
gonna
going to
be
talk to
attractive.
Midwest and say, we can't find any employees. employees, right?
Agree.
Right, and so why would you build a business here if you can't?
You can't get your employees.
Right.
I mean, they're bringing people from Jackson up here
Oh yeah, I
every
mean,
day.
we listen. Mrs. Friel comes, and talks to us every 3 or 4 months, and it's all about getting a workforce, and we're working really hard on that workforce development center to get people trained up to go to work there and other places, and it's starting to get some traction. It's starting to work, and now she's like, well, they don't have any place to live, and they don't have a way to get to Amanda. Right? They don't have a car. So that's why I'm working on the housing, and Commissioner Davis is working on the transportation, and Commissioner Levis is working on the workforce. It's all tied together, right? You can't just do one. You got to do all of them. So,
Right.
So that's why I'm here, because we're talking about housing.
We need that train going back and forth. We can just hop on the train.
That'd be nice. Maybe they'll make a train to Intel and I can just hop on it and go to work.
Shouldn't have got rid of that back in the 70s.
So as commissioners, do you have a separate committee for basically the improvements that we're talking about? Or have you went that far yet to set up a group?
Well, not necessarily a committee. So part of our economic and workforce development team is we've got a guy in there that is focused on this stuff. And Anthony Cheney is his name, and we'll bring him out here and introduce you once you guys get through the first couple steps, figuring out what you want.
So it's more of an individual guidance.
Yeah, and he would
And I
bring
think
in
that as you get into it, myself or
Yeah.
Jeremiah,
right.
we can kind of help answer questions.
So we've got a team basically of the Tony Vogels and Jeremiah Ups and the economic workforce development guys, regional planning, the soil and water conservation districts in there, the health department's in there. I mean, there's a whole group that is connected, stakeholders, I guess you'd say, that are going to be mobilized, when you're ready to figure it out.
So who would, on our first step, who would be the first one to bring down here and for us to form a group to start attacking this?
Yeah, so I can talk to Anthony. I've lived through this in Pickerington, so the first questions of how big and of what, we can start with that, and either Anthony or I or both can come down and help you. Once you start talking water and sewer, that guy right there is gonna be the guy to talk to. But let's get through that first part first.
Yeah.
That's the most critical thing. What do you want?
And I think we need a kick in the butt to get started on that process. Put it in layman's terms.
Well, then why don't you set up another work session for a month from now, and come down and we'll have that conversation about what.
Awesome.
I think that's on our part, we're all part-timers at this,
Oh yeah.
and we all have other things to do, but if we don't get off our keister and start, and we need direction to start on what we're doing so we do it correctly, I'm willing to set in on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In my final 3 months, I'm willing to set in on it.
Well, yeah, hopefully.
Did I just hear you say you're retiring?
So my term ends this year. I retire from work next year. I'm not seeking re-election because I don't want anything that I want to alleviate myself from responsibility.
Get
Let's say because if I want to pack up and go somewhere, I have a council meeting at night.
Get it. So, is there someone running for your seat?
There's 3 candidates that'll be running. Yes,
For how many seats are open?
2.
Yours and
Mr. Martins, who's not here yet.
is he running? Is he one of the 3?
Yeah.
No,
Okay, so you got 2 newbies coming in.
and she just got appointed. What, last month?
You're one of the people on the ballot.
She's one of the people running, so her seat might be.
We'll definitely have 2 seats.
We'll see
Right,
whose name
so
gets
you got
gets
3
called.
running for 3.
Yeah.
Because you're running for your seat.
I will be,
Right.
well, the seat that I have now, I'll run next year for.
Okay.
If I get
I
elected,
got you. Then you'll
then,
appoint somebody.
then we'll appoint a new person for
Okay.
Suzanne's.
Personally, I hope there's 3 seats open because I'll be in that seat. Hopefully.
Okay. Well, that's up to you guys.
But, like I say, we'll just, at council, can you put it on council agenda for Monday that we set up a date and time? Is there a good day?
I've already got the thing ready, so we can just bring it up under development.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're talking October.
Yes, sir. Can't do it Fair Week.
Oh, no.
This community shuts down for Fair Week.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Not the whole county does.
And yeah, and then Pumpkin Show
So,
after that.
is
Yeah.
Fair Week the ninth
We're
through the
right on
16th?
both of them.
Yes.
It is.
We got 2
And then
weeks in
the
a row.
15th
We're
and
counted out here.
21st is Pumpkin Show,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think it starts on a Wednesday or Tuesday.
Yeah, but
Yeah. but
everybody
you might as well
knows-
say
so
that.
everybody knows they travel from there to there on Sunday.
We do the 23rd.
Do Wednesday or Thursday, 25th or 26th.
Is it 25th or 6th?
Yep. You guys let me know which one works for you. Come back down and figure out how big you want to do.
25th will work for me, Carrie. I'll work 26.
Wednesday's always good for me. So.
So the consensus right now is the 25th, so.
Might have a harvest festival meeting, but they can meet over there in my house.
Yeah.
I'm open both days.
that's
Never thought
the
a hillbilly like me.
Probably.
Having your calendar like that.
Oh, it's my sports.
Mm-hmm. That's
What time?
their tournaments then, right?
What time?
6 o'clock? Is it okay?
Time's good for him.
He
Is
said
that right?
he
Is
said
that
he
all
shook
right
his
with you,
head.
sir?
6:30.
Yes.
Yes.
Whenever you want, we'll be down.
Think I didn't know your first name.
Jeff.
I'm new.
It's Mr.
Mr. Sir.
It's Commissioner.
Just Jeff.
So we decide which day?
The 25th, since he works on the 26th, and 25th is good with her, and you said both days, so that's kind of a consensus to me.
So far.
And you probably want to check with Shar.
Well, like I said, we'll check with everybody else, but right now, we'll pencil us in for the 25th, and if it has to change, we can change it.
That's great. Sounds good.
Well, Jeff, we really appreciate you coming down.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the
Yes, sir.
invite.
Thank you, guys.
Don't forget to thank
Thank you very
Liz.
much.
Thanks,
Stop.
Liz.
She's my bodyguard.
Is she your driver?
Yeah,
Is she your Uber?
she's my
You're
bodyguard.
probably
we
stressed
have-
out on
we have
them
to
seats.
close
It's
the
just
meeting.
kind
So
of
wait,
taking it
before
out.
you all get up and leave, let me just say one thing. You guys are ahead of this, right? The fact that you're sitting here tonight and you're working on this, you're ahead of most other places in the county. Some are getting there, but I appreciate that you're willing to start thinking this way. It's necessary, so,
We appreciate the guidance.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm
We
gonna help.
do.
That's my
Really
job.
Hey, Carrie,
I
we
gotta
gotta
turn this
close
off.
the meeting.
Oh, all right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
We're all in favor of that.
By saying-
Thank you. You guys need anything, let me know.
All right.
Right,
Thank you.
six numbers to the lottery.
What's that?
You asked if you needed anything, right?